There's a new streaming service in town, which makes it about 400 now, I think we have to choose from. Alamo On Demand, Alamo Drafthouse Cinema, of which I'm a huge fan. Currently, like most theaters, is not open. That'll change, I think, in the near future. They have opened up a streaming service that you can get through various apps and things, predominantly through your computer. And they've partnered with various film distributors to offer quite a few really cool, oddball, niche, cult kind of movies, and a few sort of new releases too, that you can either buy digitally or rent. The rental rates, I believe, are $2.99 for most of the films that I looked at. And the range of films goes from really like the 70s up until last year. Yesterday, we watched a film entitled 24 by 36, a documentary about movie posters, which is the 24 by 36 being the dimensions of your average one-sheet movie poster. Now, you may think that's an awfully specific thing to watch for an hour and a half. Yes, it is. But if you like movie posters and you like movies and you don't know much about the origins of said things, it's kind of cool. It's actually really cool. So this documentary, briefly in the beginning, gives you the history of movie posters, how and why there were various sizes, and then it goes on to just discuss several well-known artists. It sort of focuses on people who did poster art in the 70s, 80s, and beyond. Some of which they speak with, some of which they speak with the heirs or descendants or surviving members of their family, or they're people who run their website or whatever. But you get into the style of these artists. You get to see some rough sketches and alternate ideas they had for posters. You hear about some iconic movie posters and how some of them were changed for various reasons. You hear about why posters are the way they are now. Like, I'm not a fan of contemporary posters because it's generally just a giant head or half a face or the flying V formation of faces or whatever. I really love the days of painted artwork posters, or posters that really, as they point out in this documentary, there are certain posters that are so well done and so memorable that when you think about a movie, you don't think about a scene from the movie, you think about the poster. And that was a really good point that I hadn't thought about, but there are a lot of those. Now, growing up in the era of the video store, the box covers are what I think about for a lot of movies before I think of the movie, because I would endlessly be looking at the box covers. Now that we're in the virtual world of everything being streaming, you don't really get that as much anymore. And as they point out in this documentary, it's become more important to some poster was something that would hang in a theater lobby for weeks, months, whatever. You could stand and look at it for however long you felt like. When it became, you know, an icon that you see that's an inch that you scroll past on Netflix, you only had a blink of an eye or two to make an impression on people. And you can't do something that's strange and obtuse and ethereal and artistic when somebody is just scrolling through looking for Mel Gibson's face. Although these days, probably looking less for Mel Gibson's face than they used to. I thought this documentary was a heck of a good time. I was drooling over some of the artwork. It was really cool to hear from some of these artists and what they experienced and some of the time constraints or things that were dictated by the studios as to how and what the poster was ultimately going to be, how much free reign they had in creating a poster. And it moves on from the era of people working regularly for studios to the modern era where you have, I hesitate to call it fan art because these are artists first and foremost, but the people who are doing art for companies like Mondo, where you're creating new concepts and new artwork for classic movies, some of which are phenomenal and as good as any poster you've ever seen. We talk about that whole thing. You talk about the artists, you talk to the artists, and this whole market that has grown up for people who buy these limited edition posters for things like Back to the Future or Vertigo or whatever. There are these extremely limited runs, but people who really just love this art and love these new artists. So it's a really cool, comprehensive story of what goes into making a movie poster, be it for, you know, theatrical exhibition or just hanging on your wall. This is a digital rental. The way we saw it was a digital rental through Amazon On Demand. It is 24 by 36.